It's time for my top 10 movies of 2025. As always, this list is fluid and subject to change as soon as I finish recording this video. Of the 48,513 movies that were released in the year, I watched 54 full-length narrative films, or about 1/10 of 1% of the total movies released. So take my list with a grain of salt because there is so much I haven't seen. Based on other reviewers and what I know about myself, the following movies could possibly break into my top 10 once I get the chance to check them out. Love Me, Now You See Me, Now You Don't, Avatar, Fire and Ash, Sovereign, Roofman, Sentimental Value, No Other Choice, Blue Moon, Begonia, Hamnet, Twinless, and Warfare. To start off, let's revisit my top 10 movies from 2024 as of January 1st of 2025. There's only been one change to that list. I finally saw Clint Eastwood's Juror number 2, and it broke into my top 10 at number 5, pushing Furiosa off of the list. And now for my top 10 movies of 2025. Kathryn Bigelow directs what I am considering the most unsettling movie of 2025. It follows members of the United States government as they learn about a nuclear missile that is heading towards the continental US. The story is told in 3 separate parts, following 3 different government agencies and how they handle the situation. A lot of reviews have said that this movie is very anticlimactic, but I think it was done perfectly. Seeing the same story from multiple angles adds depth, but don't expect to get all the answers. A lot of stuff is left up to your imagination and interpretation. I thought the movie was scary enough before discussing it with my friend Mike, who pointed out that the movie shows how bad things can get when the people in charge actually care about the country and are competent in their jobs. And that doesn't seem to be the case right now in the real world. For me, The Life of Chuck is the feel-good movie of 2025. It's based on a Stephen King short story, and it's told in 3 parts that explores, get this, the life of a guy named Chuck. He's an everyman, and he's really a mystery for the first third of the film, but it's a movie that's going to make you appreciate life. Now, while it starts off with a pretty scary premise about a world where the internet just goes away and maybe some other scary stuff, it ends up being much less scary once you realize what's actually happening. Getting to know Chuck over the course of his life was a treat, and the fact that it was told out of order gives you things to think about as you learn about things that happened earlier or later in his life. This is one that's just going to make you stop and smell the roses and appreciate the life that you have. I cannot quite put my finger on why I like Train Dreams as much as I did. It's a genre that I'm not usually into, kind of like a period piece, and it's really slow and quiet and contemplative. There was something calming about watching it, even though the movie was full of turmoil and horrible things kept happening. It never really felt that way. Will Patton's narration probably helped with the movie's tone. He just has this nice, deep, calming voice. The lead actor was dealing with a lot, and he took it all in stride. Even with the bad things happening, it somehow made living in the early 1900s almost feel like a paradise. Sitting on the porch of the home that you built, looking out over the water at sunset, it seems ideal. But I know it was either too hot or too cold, and there were bugs everywhere, and he was probably always hungry, and he was always in pain because all the manual labor he was doing. But somehow it just seemed like a pleasant time to grow up. Train Dreams is a movie that's going to make you think, and it's an enjoyable watch, even though bad things happen in it. Hey, look, it's another Stephen King movie. This one not quite as uplifting as The Life of Chuck. The long walk takes place on the road where 50 boys just walk until they can walk no more. It takes excellent directing to take a movie where the scenery never really changes and to make it interesting. And this movie is always interesting. Mark Hamill was in both The Life of Chuck and The Long Walk. In this, he plays an evil army guy, and if it weren't for another evil army guy in another movie, I would say he played the best evil army guy of the year. The Long Walk has great acting, and you really grow to care about these boys as they walk to try to better their lives in such a dangerous game. Knives Out was my favorite movie the year it came out, which really surprised me because I'm typically pretty lukewarm on Rian Johnson movies. Being the 3rd film in the Knives Out franchise, I expected it to be losing some steam. But I was wrong. We have another stellar cast and an intriguing mystery that just kept me guessing. Josh O'Connor is great as the new priest, and Josh Brolin is even greater as the elder fire and brimstone priest. This movie didn't feature nearly as much of Daniel Craig's Benoit Blanc as the other 2 films, but honestly, I didn't really miss him that much. These movies are driven by the story, the mystery, the ensemble cast, and the humor. And as long as those other elements are there, I don't really need as much Benoit Blanc. And I will keep watching these movies as long as they keep making them. It's strange to say it, but Rian Johnson has really turned into a modern-day Agatha Christie. While Wicked for Good did not quite live up to the heights of the first film for me, I knew that going in because I prefer the first half of the musical to the second half. But once again, the production values are through the roof, and both Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo kill it in their roles. There are some bangers on the soundtrack, but none quite as good as the best songs from part one. Now, if you saw the first movie and liked it, there's no way you're not going to like this one too. I love a good wacky horror movie. Weapons is so full of charm and wit, but it's also creepy when it needs to be. It has a killer premise where an entire class, except for one kid of an elementary school, goes missing. And as the movie goes on, it keeps getting crazier. This isn't the type of movie to win awards, but I still say that Amy Madigan's portrayal of Aunt Gladys is an award-worthy performance. Julia Garner and Josh Brolin are also great here. I personally prefer Brolin's performance in Wake Up Dead Man to his performance here, but no shade on this character because it's also great. I loved how the story was told from multiple characters' perspectives, and with each new point of view, we get a bit more of the story. The movie is wild, and it ends up in a much different place than it begins, and it takes an inventive filmmaker to pull off such a drastic tone shift in the movie. In my opinion, this is the best horror movie of 2025. I was glued to the screen from the very first scene of Marty Supreme. Timothée Chalamet has always been a good actor, but in my eyes, I've never absolutely loved him in anything. And while I hate the character of Marty Mauser in Marty Supreme, there is no denying that Chalamet was on top of his game. I think he was in every scene of this movie, and his chaotic energy is what drove the film to be so great. Director Josh Safdie is a master of creating tension in his movies, and while both Good Time and Uncut Gems are tense movies, I think Marty Supreme takes the cake. There isn't a moment to breathe, and there are more than a few completely unexpected and shocking scenes. I never would have thought that a movie about an up-and-coming ping pong player in 1952 would be so engrossing. This is easily my favorite P.T. Anderson movie. The tone and the frantic pace of this felt a lot like Marty Supreme. The movie starts fast and tense, and it just goes for nearly 3 hours. Leonardo DiCaprio's energy reminded me a lot of Chalamet's chaotic energy in Marty Supreme, but Leo's guy is much more likable. There are a lot of great performances in this movie, but there's one that's a standout, and that is Sean Penn as Captain Lockjaw. This dude was intense, just a bad man, and every time he was on screen, he made my skin crawl. The movie could have still been good with someone else in that role, but Penn's performance was probably my favorite male acting performance of the year, and it added so much to this already great film. Let's do a couple of honorable mentions. Best acting overall has got to be Rose Byrne, and If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. It's a movie about a mother dealing with a lot and hanging on by a thread. She's right there near the end of her rope the whole movie and just trying to keep it together for her kid. The most disturbing movie? It's got to be Bring Her Back. It's a mother dealing with the loss of a child who's willing to do anything to bring her back from the dead. The movie has a handful of scenes that I had to watch through my fingers, and even so, I cannot get the visuals and the audio out of my head. This movie is great, it's just dark and disturbing. The most polarizing movie of the year is probably Friendship. If you like Tim Robinson's wacky, over-the-top, unpredictable humor, this movie's for you. If you don't like Tim Robinson's wacky, over-the-top, unpredictable humor, this isn't going to change your mind. The best legacy sequel? The Naked Gun. It's way better and funnier than it had any right to be. Now, it's not as good as the original movie, but it might be better than at least one of the sequels. The best documentary I saw this year was The Perfect Neighbor. It's told entirely through police body cam footage. It's very engrossing and maddening. Everyone in this movie did everything by the book, and things still go horribly wrong. The entertainer of the year has got to be Stephen King. With The Life of Chuck, The Long Walk, and The Running Man, he had a great year. Now, The Running Man wasn't nearly as good as I wanted it to be, but honestly, it's a lot better than the reviews would have you believe, and it is still entertaining and worth watching. Maybe not quite as much so as the 80s version with Arnold Schwarzenegger, though. And I gotta give a special mention and shout out to K-Pop Demon Hunters. This movie invaded my life more than any other movie of the year. Half the soundtrack was in my top songs of the year on Apple Music because of my daughter, and my daughter is now obsessed with all things K-pop, is learning Korean. We've seen the movie a dozen times, and now we've branched off into other K-pop groups and K-pop shows. And on top of that, K-Pop Demon Hunters, it's actually a pretty fun and entertaining movie. It's well worth watching. It's not often that I see a movie so early in the year, and it stays on top all year long. Sinners is a masterclass of filmmaking. The story is killer, can be analyzed on multiple levels. The acting is top-notch. The production design is the best of the year. Everything felt hot and humid and run down. It really captured the Deep South from nearly 100 years ago. The editing is fast-paced and made the movie fly by. We only see 24 hours in Sinners, and in that time, we meet so many people and get to know their stories, and it never feels like they're doing that, "Hey Josh, you're my brother" exposition thing. It all feels organic and natural. The movie itself is a masterpiece, but it also features probably the coolest scene of the year going through the history of music. And on top of that scene, the score and the original music are both some of the best of the year. Sinners is just a cool movie and features one of my all-time favorite mid-credit scenes that adds so much more to the story. If you don't know the direction the movie goes, you should probably watch it before it gets ruined for you. It's a genre bender with an important social message, and it's entertaining from the first scene to the last scene. And there you have it, my top 10 movies of 2025. I can't wait to see what 2026 brings.